Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Majority Show, Scotland's number one politics, chat, and entertainment. My name is Mark Devlin. I'm the host for tonight, and this is going out live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I'm here tonight with co-hosts Mhairi Devlin, who you most know, and Mark Zegveldt. How are you tonight?
I'm good, thanks.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Right, and Mhairi, what are you going to be talking about tonight?
Tonight, I'm going to be talking about how councils are considering desperate measures to plug a massive black hole from the Green and SNP funding cuts.
Okay, and Mark, what are you going to talk about?
I'm going to talk about the Greens and their anti-monarchy campaign.
Yes, okay, they're really up for that. Certainly, of course, today is the day of this kind of Scottish coronation or receiving the Scottish honours. So that's why that's in the news. I'll be talking about Mhairi Black's stellar record in Westminster.
Okay. And of course, we have Zoomer of the Week.
Right, all that and much, much more just coming up in a moment. All right, a big welcome to you all who are coming in and watching the show from all over Scotland and beyond. Saudi Arabia, we just saw there. And I'm sure I don't know if it's sunny, it must be sunnier than here, I would guess. But it's been pretty good weather, apart from these past few rainy days. Anyway, welcome back to the Majority, Scotland's number one politics and chat show. I'm here tonight with Mhairi and Mark. Mark, it's been a couple of weeks since you were on the show, remember? That one, it's quite memorable. What have you been up to since then?
Yeah, I've been quite busy with me Twitter Spaces, hosting my Twitter Spaces, and spending time with family. It's my birthday on Thursday, so
congratulations!
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday! Yeah. Another year younger. And so, what kind of topics people have been talking about on the Spaces?
Well, we've been talking about all sorts. About I had a couple on that were talking about the inquiry that's going on, the police investigation, which one was a ex-police officer and one was an ex-fraud expert. So we were discussing the latest developments and what's been going on in that. And I've got one coming up. I've been doing the Jules Rolls campaign that was in the news with the LML investigation into the hospital.
Yes, okay.
We did one with her, and we're doing one tomorrow with her as well. Just catching up on the campaign because it's kind of kicked off pretty big at the moment.
Very good. Well, I think the Twitter Spaces are really good, and I encourage anyone who's on Twitter to join in them. Sometimes we join in them as well, and they're quite good because they get quite a variety of people. It's like a kind of mass radio phone-in show, and we'd hope to be able to do something like that on this show at some point. Maybe get some more live people on, but that's perhaps for later. Right. Okay. So we'll talk a little bit more about you in a second. Mhairi, what else?
Well, sharing is caring. So wherever you are, please like, share, comment, tell your friends, extend our reach at the click of a button.
And as usual, huge thanks to our friends at UK Union Voice and United Against Separation Facebook pages, where many of you are watching tonight.
And as usual, I'll be handling all your comments. So please make them short and snappy, and I'll try to get as many up on the screen as I can.
Okay, we have a lot to talk about on the show today. Of course, look forward to your comments. And so we'll be back in just a second. Right, well, the SNP is melting down faster than Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, and Fukushima combined. So far, six MPs have decided to step down. We've got Ian Blackford, and we all sighed a big sigh of relief when that happened, because we didn't need to listen to his moaning every week on the House of Commons. Colin Chapman, Treasurer, Peter Clark from Glenrothes, Angela Crawley, who's our local MP, Lanarkshire and Hamilton East, Stuart Hosey, Party Treasurer, previous Deputy Leader, and of course Miss KitKat herself, Mhairi Black. Black was elected as.
Is she taking a break?
Oh, very good, Mary. Did you? Are you keeping that one? There, very good. So Black was elected in 2015 as a member for Paisley and Renfrewshire South, and she holds a few records. When elected in May 2015, she was 20 years old and 230 days old. 20 years, 237 days old, making her the youngest MP elected to the House of Commons since the Reform Act of 1832. Apparently before then, there was a bunch of teenagers in there. And some might say not much has changed since then, perhaps. Anyway, so she has been involved in quite a lot of stuff. Even before she was elected, she was pulled up for kind of obnoxious tweets that she had put out. And of course, her most famous issue, well, certainly not necessarily her most famous issue, but one of her more notorious issue was the famous KitKat incident. And so let's have a look at that.
Yeah, rubbing your gums. Yeah.
And there's nod of shame.
Down.
Shame.
Hope nobody's seen me.
Oh no!
Keep my head down.
I've been found out. Oh geez! Oh no! Okay, what? So, but fear not, that guilty look was not that she'd been caught rubbing cocaine, speed, or other exotic substances into her gums, but was in fact a cheeky KitKat. And here's the photographic evidence. Where is this? I've got this actually here. Where is it? Okay, right. Oh, no. Oh, come on. Where did it go? Oh, it's right here. These buttons are small. Oh, I don't know where it is. It's gone.
Oh, no.
It's there. She actually posted a picture of her KitKat and said it was a KitKat. That she was.
But KitKats are crispy.
KitKats are indeed crispy,
aren't they? Or crunchy. Or you don't normally rub a KitKat on your gums.
Never seen that before.
If she'd said sherbet or said something like that, then.
Yes, it's quite something actually. Generally, we don't look so guilty when we eat KitKat, unless you've eaten 5 in a row and the wife comes in and catches you, something like that. But perhaps not in the House of Commons.
If you're crumbs everywhere.
Yes, Mara, what do you think of this KitKat incident?
Yeah, that was just bizarre, to be honest with you. But it plays into how they are bizarre completely. Anyway, I find them quite embarrassing. They're representing Scotland, and I just find it. Mhairi Black, I can't watch it because it's just, I find it quite. I find it quite offensive, but I also find it quite embarrassing that she represents Scotland, and I'm very interested in the recent events, though, what's happened, because she showed no intent to step down. Yes. It was very quick and very sudden.
Last week she was in the party conference. If you watched the show last week, you have seen where she was talking about Scotland being a colony, and or she was very opposite. She was saying that Scotland, the UK, had an amazing record, world-breaking record for countries that had left it, not understanding that they'd also left Scotland as well. So my point was, well, what's so bad about Scotland? All these countries wanted their independence from it. Certainly, anyway, that's a bit of a joke. But the thing was, she was quite passionately delivering these speeches just a few days ago, and then next thing she resigns. Now let's go back to you. I found it. Here it is. There it is. That's the offending item. It's
the KitKat.
That's the actual one.
The actual one.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like anything has been rubbed off that, though. I mean, where?
Well, she's eaten it all, hasn't she?
Oh. Is that a wallet behind it?
Yeah,
that's not chocolate.
No. That's chocolate. That's it.
I see.
That's the actual offending KitKat wrapper.
Who rubs a KitKat on their gums? I mean, really?
It's a very, very, very strange one.
Never seen that before.
But, if it was something else, then couldn't she just wait to get to the bathrooms, the toilets, or something? I mean,
well, you can't wait. Probably you think that might be a safe place, but there's cameras everywhere. That's the thing. So anyway, she's also one of the laziest MPs. Mhairi Black topped the list of the top 20 laziest MPs in 2022 with only 8 spoken contributions, which, as someone pointed out on Twitter, is around £12,500 per contribution, because they get about £80,000 or something. Is that correct? £82,000?
86, isn't it?
I put it in
86,000.
here somewhere.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's £86,584 a year.
Right.
So,
but isn't it a good thing that she spoke less?
Well, yes, maybe, very good. You might say that.
Less said, the better. I mean, every time she opens her mouth, she embarrasses Scotland, as
Yes.
Mark said.
I think she's seen the numbers. Personally, I think she's seen the numbers, the data, and it's showing her. One, she was gonna lose a seat, and I think the finances of the SNP's got something to do with it as well.
Oh, really?
Because I don't think they've got the money to do a campaign for, what is it, 54 seats?
Right.
I don't think they've got that kind of money to campaign for that in the general election. And yes. I think that's why they're all pulling out. I don't think they're gonna. I think they'll be lucky to have 20 seats.
Well, that's possible.
A good point, actually, about the finances, because yeah, I mean, if they can't actually put up a good competition, then compared to Labour have a lot more funds. Yeah,
I think Labour's going to take a lot of seats off them, a lot of seats.
Well, certainly the polls are looking that way. And just to take a second, actually, just from that, which was a missed out at the beginning, there was more poll misery for Humza Yousaf. SNP support slumps to its lowest level in 12 years. This poll just came out just before the show went up. It's from Redfield and Wilton. Okay. Strategies. Who do Scots voters would think would win an independence referendum? That's now yes for independence, down at 38%. They've got a don't know 20%. That doesn't seem quite right. That just seems a bit odd.
Well, I mean, perhaps a lot of people are wavering.
Well, we used to say, of course, that anyone who was I don't know is actually a no, right? That's part of it. That's actually the wrong thing. That they've got a whole bunch of polls polling out right now, basically saying that the gap is closing between SNP and Labour, and we'll talk maybe a little bit more about that there. And going back to Paisley, one of our other misadventures was to bring the drag queen into children's primary school, which got a huge amount of pushback from the parents, because this is what this person was posting onto their social media channels. If the kids were looking them up. Now that's actually in there.
That looks scary.
Yes. Well, you could say, some people say, well, it's not much different from a pantomime dame. Fair enough. Okay, but then you look in the backstory of the pantomime dame. Are they dressed like that? Are they writing sexually explicit material on their various social media, including simulating a sex act with a dildo and simulating oral sex? But this is all part of Ms. Black's drive for inclusivity. So apparently inclusivity means that your kids have to be subjected to sexual content in primary schools. Yeah, any thoughts on that part, Mark?
I just find it complete. I find it disgusting, to be honest with you. I don't think they should be going into schools. I think the parents need to be pushing back a lot more on this, because what's the agenda for this? What is their agenda for this? Because you can teach exclusivity and you can teach all about gender and that without having drag queens that coming into primary schools.
Yeah.
But their shows, when they put shows on, their shows are more usually 18 and over.
Yes.
So it's completely different to a pantomime, where it's all for the kids. It's done for the kids. Their act is not for under 18s.
I think it's just confusing for young kids, actually. Yeah. It's probably a bit confusing.
Why is that? I
mean, it's supposed to be some kind of, performance, but I think children will just be a little bit confused about who is this person. I mean, kids are often, scared of, for example, a lot of people have phobias about clowns and so on. But I think when you see people dressed up with this extreme makeup and extreme outfits, It's probably
Yes.
quite scary
Well, I
for the
think that's
kids
true.
and
Even some
confusing.
adults are quite scared of drag queens. Now, I've nothing against drag queens. Many of my friends are drag queens, in fact. So it's not that, but I don't think any of them would be pushing this into other people's children's faces, so to speak.
Or, I would say that if parents want their kids to see, to be spoken to by drag queens and taught by drag queens and read to by drag queens, then maybe there could be a little, like a Saturday morning club or something, and you could register for it. But why is it being forced in schools?
Yes, and
It
it's
should
all, of
definitely be
course,
a parent's choice.
and part of it is all this so smug. It's like we're right, we're on the right side of history, we're doing all this thing, and I think there is some pushback in this, and I do worry. I think for people who just, whether they're trans or whether they're just gay, and they are like, well, I just want to live my life, and what they wanted was, in many cases, was just to be included. And not to be discriminated against, but not to have any special privileges either necessarily. And this seems a lot bit like this activism recently, mainly through the trans community, and partial some what's the word, activist gays as well. This, I think, is making many people across our political spectrum uncomfortable, and perhaps it needs to be reassessed, especially when it gets towards children. There. Anyway, back to Black. So she did that, and she picked her nose on the telly. What the God, it was pretty hideous, that one. I think we've got here it is. I don't know if you can see this one. It's not good. Right, here she goes. Oh, giving it a good dig there.
Goodness.
Right, that was that one. So she's, but occasionally she gets up and does some kind of speech claiming that she's a socialist. Now, we've got a big thing about that, of course. We don't believe that anyone can be a socialist and be a nationalist. Nationalism is greedy and divisive. Not to say that socialism hasn't its problems as well, but it certainly isn't about dividing a country and taking the best parts for yourself. That is really not, or what you perceive to be the best parts for yourself. So I don't really see, I have not had this since the beginning of starting the majority. I don't see any person who calls himself a socialist can actually be a nationalist. It's a different thing entirely, and is an issue. Now, okay. So in her statement, she called Westminster one of the most unhealthy workplaces you could ever be in, and a toxic environment. And, so, yeah, it's strange that we don't hear complaints from anyone else in there. Many MPs are there? 650?
Well,
653.
You look at the SNP, and you just got to think that it's pretty hypocritical to say that about bullying when we have the SNP, who are one of the most, blatant bullies that we've seen in politics. The bullying from Sturgeon, the bullying from Blackford, we've seen it throughout the SNP. And
Yes.
then I find it so strange that she then makes a statement that she's not going because of bullying. That's certainly not but it's, again, blame Westminster.
Yes, I think that's definitely a big part of it. I mean, I think that, if you really were being bullied, you make a complaint against the people who bully you. That's fair enough, right? If you really thought it was a really toxic environment, you just leave straight away, right? Why wait 18 months maybe?
The SNP Westminster branch have been caught bullying.
Yes.
They were bullying for with that the sex pest in the party.
Yes, so that's right.
They were bullying there. Blackford was caught on video.
Yeah.
Actually bullying the members, the Westminster one to vote for him. So they can't call bullying when it's rife within the party.
I'm going to talk a little bit more about bullying in the next segment, when it's all about Angus MacNeil bullying as well. So I actually think the issue is they're just a bit simpler. That first course, as the commenter pointed out there, that she's going to lose her seat. We all know that's the case. But I think basically putting someone in that young into quite a high pressure environment is, it's not necessarily healthy for them. We said, okay, it's great to have a record and all that. It's great to think that you can speak up for your local community, perhaps, but maybe be a councillor in that case. But going into high pressure.
Sorry, she was out of the depth.
Yeah, I think that's part of it.
Saying that though, I mean, what age was she when she went in? 20?
Yeah, 20.
Well, she must be about 28 by now.
Well,
What age is
that
she?
is a good point. Yes.
So she's a mature adult now.
But she doesn't
So
have
you can
this-
understand maybe if in the first year or two when maybe she was struggling, but by now she should have found her feet.
Well, that's a very good point there, Mary. I think that's true, and that there are other people. But I do think that you really need to have a bit more life experience in people. You can't say, okay, this person went to university, and then straight into the Houses of Parliament, didn't know anything, never had a real job, never had a proper boss, never had to try and just get by in the world normally. Straight in, and she had the £86,000 a year salary, and it's plus 1.4 million in expenses over the last 8 years, and the pension she's going to get for that. So it's not as though it's okay, the money is on one side, but I think we need to put representatives, I think, who have a bit more experience really in life. And if you're just in that environment, I don't think it's necessarily all that healthy. But because you didn't make the conditions for you to go in there in the first place, if you know what I mean.
Well, it's the voters are supposed to be the ones who choose based on experience and ability, aren't they?
Yes, but she had support in the local community, I think in Upswell on SNP, but she actually only mentioned, even since 2019, I've written down here, that she only mentioned Paisley in her tweets 13 times. That's 3.5 years. 13 times mentioned Paisley. So there seems to be a bit of confusion going on over there. Anyway, but the grift will continue. It seems likely that she may go to, where else can she get a job that's got that much money, right?
Oh, no, she's not going to get.
And so it seems likely she would go to the Scottish Parliament, where she can get another high salary, person, office and expenses that will like a fly to a dung pile, it says here. So, like a fly to a dung pile, she will end up most likely in Holyrood. Then we'll have to listen to her anyway, which is, of course, yet another reason to abolish Holyrood.
There's been talk that she might even challenge Humza.
Yeah,
right.
Someone was saying she might be. I can't see the comment now, but that she might go for the leadership.
Yeah,
right.
That's.
Well, she has more to benefit. She has had more experience in that higher pressure environment. Would that give her an edge there? She's an okay speaker. She's a bit too, she's not that nuanced in how she talks, in the sense of what her topics are. As I said, she kind of proclaims that she's a socialist. Then why is she doing that? She probably would really been better being in Labour, to be honest. I've thought that before. But anyway, so will you miss her, Mark?
No, not at all. No. Blackford is more of a he's one of those characters where you can watch him and you just laugh at him. Mhairi Black, I watch and I get embarrassed. So
I agree.
There's a bit of a difference between the two. You can laugh at Blackford, but Mhairi Black, no.
She does play that kind of Ned role a little bit.
Well, some people call it her being authentic.
Right.
When she plays the Ned.
Right.
But, from all accounts, that's just her putting it on.
Trying
to be one of the people.
You don't want that from your politicians, do you?
No.
You don't.
You want a kind of mix, I suppose. You want people who can speak to the local people and then who can speak up eloquently in the chamber, I suppose. Okay, not to everyone's taste, I guess. Well, we'll see where she ends up. Thankfully, it does show much more in demise for the SNP. We'll be back in a second, and we'll be talking about bullying, actually, in the House of Commons. So see you just in a moment. Welcome one and all to the Majority Show, Scotland's #1 politics and chat. We have a lot of you online right now putting in your comments. Did you know that you can, if you're on YouTube, you can leave a super thanks or a super chat, a donation, which would really help the show. It actually costs quite a bit to run the software and so on, and everything you donate is most appreciated. More on bullying. Okay, so a couple of hours ago we heard that Stephen Flynn, the SNP's Westminster head, has suspended Angus B MacNeil from Westminster Group after MacNeil complained that SNP Chief Whip Brendan O'Hara was bullying him. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's no video of this, but here's the picture there. He's with himself, I have to say.
Yeah, it's a bit smug.
Somewhat there. Okay, so just as a note, O'Hara is the MP for Argyll and Bute. I'd never heard of him before at this moment. I wonder if anyone who is in Argyll and Bute can put some comment about how their reactions to him on the chat. Apparently, suspension came about after a tense exchange between the two men over attendance in Parliament. He's said to have shouted that O'Hara was a small wee man before throwing letters on the floor. Ooh,
Oh dear.
the drama. But not only that, he took to Twitter to write, general advice, always stand up to bullies, especially any abusing their position, particularly those who scurry around shouting to anyone listening, I'll get him, I'll get him, I'll get him. I'll come back to that in a second. Mark my words. And then he shared a reply that said, yes, they are cowards. They can never operate without a similar wee clique of nasty cowards around them. So they're also never intelligent people, or they wouldn't behave that way to cover it. That's quite a damning indictment.
They're getting very tetchy these days, aren't they? I mean, it's as if something is up.
Well, that's possible, definitely. Sources told the Times
Things are not going
that
well.
the tweet's reference to "I'll get him" was from a previous argument about whether Mr. MacNeil should be in the chamber for a debate when he was campaigning to become chairman of the Energy Security and Net Zero Select Committee. It's alleged that Mr. O'Hara swore at him. But MacNeil's supporters say, it's difficult to get from Barra to London. And
it is in SNP Scotland when there's no ferries.
That's true, very true. And
maybe if you have your own helicopter.
Well, that's it. That's the thing. So
maybe they'll be giving out free helicopters next.
Well, I wouldn't surprise me. They travel by helicopter or private boat in the case of Lorna Slater.
Yep.
And not actually going with the public there. Suspension is to last for one. Anyway, gets suspended, which lasts for 1 week. But surely, if he hadn't been attending, suspending him won't make any difference.
That'll suit him.
I'll just stay in Barra. All right, okay, that's fine.
Well, someone says here that MacNeil is looking for an exit route. I think he might just have found it with his comments.
Up the backside, as it were. Yes, but Mark, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's incredible what's coming out now from the SNP. I think it's always been there, but Sturgeon had this power that she could keep it all in house,
right?
And all of a sudden now, Humza's that weak. He can't control the party now. It's I think I've said this before. It's civil war in the SNP now. It really is. I think they're out to look after themselves, and I think some have got scores to settle from a long time ago.
Yes,
and I think it's coming out now. That's why it's this secrecy has been blown well apart from the SNP.
Yeah, I definitely think that the Westminster Group was getting more tetchy anyway, because basically with this whole de facto referendum nonsense, right? So basically Sturgeon said, right, when it comes to the general election, even though I'm comfy in the Scottish Parliament, you lot down there in Westminster, whose seats are all up for grabs, we'll make you the subject of this de facto referendum. Right. So, I mean, if that was me, I'd be like, well, wait a minute. You're comfy. It's our seats that are on the line here. We'll decide what we're doing with our seats, not you. So, excuse me. That wasn't the KitKat, and that was, just a KitKat.
Pure cocaine.
Thank you, Mary. That is good. That will just go, yes.
The show would go a lot faster, wouldn't
it? Yes. Right. And so, so this is the thing that there was always that tension going on between the Westminster Group and the Scottish Group, I may as well call it, and now the Westminster Group is now fighting amongst themselves, and because the general election's coming up, they're like, we're going to lose our seats, and they're not caring about us over there. Can we think of anyone else who hasn't had the whip suspended despite being, say, arrested as a suspect in the criminal investigation over party finances? In fact, so who would that be?
Well,
I wonder.
I've no idea, but do you think this is Sturgeon trying to get revenge?
Right. Yes, and by an interesting irony, there was an SNP MP who called for Sturgeon's suspension after the party finance probe arrest. Guess who that was? Well, that was, of course, Angus B MacNeil.
Oh.
Called Operation Branch Form, a soap opera, called for political distance from Sturgeon until the probe was completed. Sturgeon and probe in the same word sentence is not.
He's also been pushing that de facto referendum as well.
Yes,
For
he was.
Westminster, he's big on that. He tweets about it every single day.
Yes. But I don't think I don't know if that was in the Westminster one or whether he was wanting to do it in the Scottish Parliament, right?
No, it was Westminster. It was
As
Westminster.
well. So he's actually for it.
Yeah,
because he was talking a lot about this Wings plan, which was to dissolve the Scottish Parliament and then have an instant election, basically, on which would be a de facto referendum as well. Anyway, he's kind of like that. He seems to be in the periphery of the party somewhat, and I think that's what the commenter said below earlier, that he's not like looking for a way out. He's been in the way out for a while, and is perhaps going to. Could a suspension be not suspension? Could the suspension be the bit that was required for him to just say, "Well, I've had enough of this. I've had my 8 years," or actually quite a long. It's 2005, I think.
You think he's going to Alba?
I don't know. It's just like frying pan to the fire, isn't it? Really. But anyway, it's possible, I suppose.
It just might, it might be a two-way thing. It might be mutually acceptable because, like in any cult, if you speak out against the leader, you get excommunicated, you don't get promoted, you get suspended, and you lose favours.
Yes.
So he might be finding himself in that situation now.
Right. Okay. Well, it's all the games afoot, as they say. So, all right. Moving on, we're going to go on to our SNP financial records. I think maybe we have to watch. Maybe have to be careful of your section, Mary.
Again.
Yes. Maybe just do one part of it, perhaps. Anyway,
yeah, sure.
we'll do that in a second. Back. Come back.
Okay, well, the this week in the news, we find out that the SNP's audit of accounts has been limited because they haven't got the records for some of the cash and cheque transactions that have taken place for membership payments and donations. So they haven't been keeping proper records. What a big surprise! So the auditors have had to put a special note in the accounts, and this is pretty bad, actually. The party have insisted that the qualification was down to administrative processes and said that there was no suggestion of misappropriation of funds. But, well, I don't know. The point on the qualification on the account said, during the course of our audit, we identified that original documentation in respect of some items of cash and cheques received for the current and prior year relating to membership, donations, and raffle income were not kept by the party.
Seems.
And the auditors therefore said that they're unable to determine whether any adjustments to the opening income is necessary. So what they're saying there is that they can't verify the opening balances, which you would normally start the year with. So you've got your ending balance from last year, you've got your starting balance this year, and they're saying that basically they can't say whether those are accurate or not. But basically, if you can't confirm your opening income, then the rest of the accounts you don't really know where you're at with anything like that. So anyway, the SNP, of course, are trying to brush it under the carpet and say, oh, there's been no suggestion of misappropriation of funds. But the thing is that if you don't have proper records, then we don't know. Right. And I find all of this extremely surprising because, the last person in charge of the accounts was Colin Beattie, who was an international banker. So you would think that someone who's an international banker would know about basic record keeping. We're not talking rocket science here. We're talking about, basic. When you have an entry, it's basically just, okay, well, who was it? Who did it come from? Was it a company or a person? What was the date? How much was it for? And what was it for? That's it.
Yes.
But we're being told that they don't have this basic financial information. And
Right.
if you don't have that, then you have to start wondering, well, why not? And, what else has been going on?
Right. Well, we do actually. We do have to. But here's. I'm just going to interrupt us just for a little second, Mary. It's a great segment. But I give a shout out to CT99 who did a super chat. £10 donation there, saying not exactly motorhome money, but please don't spend my donation on a new tent or any other camping paraphernalia. Thank you for that. There, so it actually works. How about that? Okay, now Mark, do you have anything to say about this nonsense about SNP finances here?
Yeah, it's the Electoral Commission still haven't signed off on this.
Yeah.
So if they don't, they can order their own audit and then charge the SNP for it. So it'd be interesting to see if they actually sign off on that audit.
Well, back at the end of April, talks were held at the Electoral Commission about how to impose their own auditors on the SNP accounts. And senior figures were engaged in internal discussions about that, which would be absolutely unprecedented in British political history.
Right.
For the Electoral Commission to have to bring in their own auditors.
Yeah.
So that was end of April. I don't think anything has happened since then that would stop them doing that. I mean, everything, it just gets worse. The story gets worse. So I think you're right, Mark. I think that could be a big thing with the Electoral Commission.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if they've received the 1.2 million short money.
Well, that was for Westminster, wasn't it?
Yes.
The Westminster accounts. I think what's the bigger thing is the SNP party accounts overall in Scotland.
Mm.
I'm not sure. Anyway, the Electoral Commission are so strict about everything. It's unbelievable how strict they are. So I don't know what the SNP have been reporting to them. They're supposed to report every 3 months about donations and about some of these things. We're talking here about raffles and raffle income, donations, membership income.
And
yes.
That's all their income, right?
Yes.
Well, and then we have these brown envelopes.
White envelopes even.
What is all that about? White envelopes, brown envelopes?
Envelopes.
So, I mean,
some might say.
Yeah. I think this could be really, really serious. If they're receiving cash in envelopes and they're not keeping proper records, then they're in serious trouble on many fronts.
Yes.
And it could tie in with why they're all suddenly jumping ship. It all ties in, doesn't it? They suddenly start jumping ship, and you just start to wonder. Every week, a little bit of the jigsaw gets put in, doesn't it? And you find out more and more information. You think, oh, that makes sense now. So it's unraveling, and I think they're in serious trouble. I really do. I think we're gonna. What is it? About 14-15 months out from the general election, 3 years out from Holyrood election. I think between now and then, there's going to be a lot more coming out.
Yeah.
Definitely. More. I think it's definitely quite interesting times. And I did read a comment the other day when people were talking about what's going on with Operation Branch Farm and that, and someone said, there's actually something bigger in the pipeline to do with the party itself. So, but the rumour mill is going overdrive. So we'll have to see how events develop next. Thanks for bringing that section up, Mary. It says T-shirt promo, which means that you have to look at this T-shirt and buy one if you can from the Majority shop. Every T-shirt or mouse mat or mug that you can buy will send a little bit of money to helping us keep the show going and to keep our daily work going. We work every day.
And we have a 10% off coupon.
Oh, do we?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. Which maybe...
I hope so, because we're advertising it.
Yes, we do. Anyway, next coming up. Okay, Mark's going to talk about the Greens and the Monarchy. We will be back in a second. Mark, just to introduce a wee bit. Today was the what is it called? The Honours of Scotland.
Yeah.
Child.
It's the Greens and they've started a campaign, and it's been going on for about a week before the coronation, and it's abolish the monarchy. And I just find it absolutely incredible what's going on. You get a campaign by the Greens, who nobody voted for, who are in government making policy decisions with only 3% of the vote, and nobody votes for them, and yet they are talking about democracy and that the royal family are privileged, and nobody votes for them. Well, nobody votes for the Greens.
No.
And this idea that the thing that stands out for me is that they're attacking the king, who has done more for the environment over the last 50 years than the Greens, the whole of the Scottish Greens put together. He's been campaigning when people weren't even thinking about the environment. He was campaigning for it. And we see the likes of Slater and Greer and Harvey and Chapman. Any of them spoke about the environment? It's either abolish the monarchy, it's an independence, or it's nothing, or getting into our schools. Wanting access to the schools. There's nothing about.
I mean, well, they tried to. The DRS was kind of a little bit about the environment, although I mean, it wasn't the main focus of the thing at all. I mean, they tried to say there were 600 million bottles or whatever it was being
6 bazillion.
Yeah, but whatever it is, this huge number of bottles that wasn't actually true, being discarded in the streets. And fair enough, there is a litter problem at the side of the streets. It's fair enough, but DRS wasn't a way to solve that. But that's probably the only thing that we've seen that they've done environmentally. They were trying to do HPMAs, or that's what they call.
Well, I'm going to be talking about that later.
Oh, are you? Okay. So as well.
Yeah.
Even the DRS, that to me was about money, and it ended up being about a weapon to attack Westminster with.
Yeah, yes, of course, that's really what it is.
I think it started out about the environment, but it turned into a money-making scheme and attacking Westminster, and that's they don't talk about the environment. They don't. Harvey talks. All he talks about is riding a bike and teaching kids to ride a bike without a helmet.
Yes.
It's. I think it's quite shocking. And you've got Harvey today speaking outside in a press conference. 50 people turned up. 50 people.
Yes.
And then you've got the King arriving, and the streets were packed. 6 or 7 deep all the way down. So it just shows you how out of touch the Greens are on things like this.
Well, I will say that to some extent, many reviewers I think are quite ambivalent about the monarchy. I certainly was a bit more. I mean, the thing that makes me more interested in the monarchy is that these idiot Greens are against it. If you know what I mean, if they're against it, then it might actually have something decent in there, some decent quality in it. And I think this discussion about wealth and the money is one thing. I think that's a bit misguided. I think the issue is, do they propose a better constitutional solution than that currently exists? And if that constitutional solution includes Lorna Slater, then the answer must be no. That's the problem with it. Can they propose something better? And you might think it's a bad system, but as what's his name? Winston Churchill said, it might be the worst system available, but it's the best system we have.
Well, they want a republic, so they want the head of state. So what? Who would that be?
Humza Yousaf?
Do we have Sturgeon or Salmond, or who's going to be the head of state?
Yes, and with that means that the person then gets all the trappings of the head of the state.
Yeah.
And that is an issue. I'm going to play this, just the beginning of this clip from Lorna Slater.
We need to talk about the monarchy. We need to talk about power and who holds it.
And that's all you need to know,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that's what it's all about. It's about power. It's not about any higher level or anything like that. It's like, we want the power, right? That's what they want to do. They want power so that a minority, a tiny minority of people, barely elected,
Yeah.
can impose DRS and all this type of stuff without any pushback. If there was no Westminster, for example, DRS might have gone through, and then we'd all be standing like third world citizens at the bottle bank. Is that? I mean, that kind of thing. And that's what when they'd be going, or they can be congratulating themselves of how great and how wise and wonderful they are. And no, I don't think so. So for me, if the monarchy acts as a brake on politicians' power, then I actually think that is quite a good thing. Almost maybe a libertarian argument, perhaps. I don't know. Could maybe get that. Maybe stretch that, perhaps.
The only issue I have with the monarchy, I'm a royalist. I always have been. But the only issue I have is maybe it's too big, and maybe it can be trimmed down a bit. But if you look at the figures,
thanks, Stephen.
They bring in nearly over $1 billion in tourism and trade and things like that. The monarchy.
I think it's easy to go into the money thing and say, right, okay, it's a financial thing, but it's not just a financial thing. It's a bit like people who say, oh, well, if Scotland, if the Nationalists could convince me that Scotland would be richer, then I would join them. You're like, wait a minute. You're like, so you can be bought, right? You're for sale. Then that's not the way it works. It's like, well, what we're talking about, there's more things important than money. There's for example, in that example, there's what about our military? What about our social bonds? What about families? What about our culture, shared culture, all these type of stuff? And these parts are always the same with the discussion of the monarchy as well. There's more to it than just a financial transaction.
You have to look at what they do for charity as well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so all these parts are important in the thing, and I think it's very easy for these people in the Greens to go, all right, well, they're wasting their money. I mean, Lorna Slater wasted hundreds of millions of pounds on the DRS
alone. Yeah.
Right. So who's she to lecture anyone about wasteful money? And the Crown Estates, of course, bring money into the UK government. It's a profitable thing for the UK government. So just
in other words, they've no idea what they're talking about. To be
honest, that's it.
They really don't.
I mean, it's just extremists, really.
We'll need to get you a new mug, Mark.
Well, stay Humza. That's what we want. Keep and stay in position. That's it. Anyway, I think
Humza forever.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. Anyway, Patrick Harvey. I mean, you want Patrick Harvey as the leader of your country? I don't think so. Right. Okay. Back in a second. With Mary's going to talk a little bit about council overspends, underspends, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whoops, come. Okay, here we go. Right, Mary, this segment was bumped from last week.
And it should probably get bumped again. But yeah, why don't I just cover it very quickly, and then we can elaborate with if there are more developments in the future. I basically just wanted to bring everyone's attention to the fact that the Scottish government, the SNP Green government, have been starving councils of money, which has then led to the effect that the councils are having to consider desperate measures to plug the massive black hole that they're going to have because of this lack of funding from the SNP Green government. So in the 24-25 year, we're expecting about £1 billion of a black hole for councils, which could rise to about £2 billion another couple of years later. So the kind of things that the councils are having to consider, and as I said, they're just considering, for some people, for some of the brackets for council tax, they're looking at putting them up by up to 22.5%. So nearly a quarter for some people. They're also looking at increasing council taxes, possibly for if anyone's got a conservatory or if you've got an extension, then maybe you should have to pay extra council tax. All of this, of course, means another thing that they have to look at is cutting jobs. So there's an estimate out there at the moment that maybe 7,000 full-time jobs might have to be cut from councils, which would be an average, I believe, about 240 in each council in Scotland, jobs that would be lost. Councils are being urged by the government to put in tourist taxis. So say, for example, someone goes to Ayrshire, then and they stay in a hotel or whatever, or an Airbnb, then they might be on top of the
To
rate.
get money back.
They might be they might be charged a tourist tax.
Nothing against Ayrshire. Come from Ayrshire.
So you can see that this might actually deter people from going to some of these councils.
Yes.
Another way that councils are trying to make up the shortfall is raising parking fines.
Well, that's the ULEZ, isn't it? You know, but the
So-
problem with these things, the ULEZ, is like they spend so much on the machines that they're actually going to make any
Don't
money.
make any money. Yeah.
You know?
So that is just a very brief summary. I might get into more detail in some of these things at another time.
Well, I think it's quite. I mean, it's okay. It's fine, Mary. We have this other one here. The swimming pools are cut.
Yeah, that's one of the things they're doing also.
As well. And so this is the thing. They're taking all the money and they're putting it into their pet projects, right? Not pet projects. They're actually, we looked up this up because I asked Mary to look this up last week, and they're putting the money basically into welfare and spending.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
So they put an extra. Let's just say they do a child benefit payment. It just costs a vast amount of money. Vast. Or they do this staff thing with the kids going to, free buses, £300 million. And they don't care about that because they kind of virtue signal about those, but they don't realise like a tiny percentage onto a big number is a huge amount.
Yep.
And that starves everything else of their cash. Because they're not competent people, that's what it comes down to. They've never ran a business, they've never ran any big budgets, they've never done anything. They just want to get headlines.
The only department from the government that didn't get cut was Angus Robertson's.
Right.
350 million.
Yeah.
350 million he gets.
Yeah.
Now, you could use that to plug this whole, for the councils, because what was it this year? 350 million less money that they received, the councils received. So
and remember, last year, there was a 2 billion underspend in the Scottish budget. So that the Scottish government had £2 billion that they didn't spend. So if they'd given some of that money to the councils, that would have solved, all the problems in the councils.
Well, and a lot of the money that comes from the Scottish government is ring fenced. Excuse me. It's like they'll have plenty of money for bike lanes, but they won't have any money for extra teachers. So because they have to keep the Greens on side. So the Greens say we need bike lanes everywhere. All right, Sturgeon hums out. Oh yeah, of course, we'll do it if you like. Bend over, right, whatever. And then so that's what happens. And when the money goes to Glasgow, Jackie Bailey was complaining about the money's ring fenced for their pet projects.
Yeah, they can't use
and
it.
And then
for
they don't have
want.
anything else. And they say, well, how do we pay for our teachers? Oh, we've got great bike lanes. Oh, world leading bike lanes.
There's just one last point that I'd like to make, which is actually made by the Labour MSP Mark Griffin. He pointed out that the SNP were the ones who had promised to scrap council tax.
Yes,
over 15
that's
years.
That's a very good point,
ago.
actually.
Yeah.
There's definitely a meme that goes around with that on it. There. Yeah, and as Tommy Mott says here, what about the new Minister for Independence? Yep, £96,000 they are wasted. I'm just thinking, how many more centimetres of a bike lane you could make with
you mentioned
that
the swimming
96,000.
pools, Mark. People are angry about the swimming pools because the Scottish government were actually given, I think it was like 70 million
70
or something,
million, specific
for
for it.
pools, and then they turn around and say, "Oh, we give it back to you in some other way. You actually got that money in some other
it's
way."
just rubbish.
So the councils are pretty angry about that one.
You know what? As we say many times, you elect incompetent people on the basis of their ability to try and get you this idealistic goal of independence. You don't care about whether they're incompetent or the sleazebags or grifters, gropers, and no hopers, as we say on the show. So we get what you deserve. You deserve it.
Where's the COVID money? Where's the COVID money?
Yeah, well, that's.
Will we ever find that out?
We could have a whole show. Just ourselves.
We could do a series on that.
It's staggering the amounts. When you start adding it up, it's just staggering how much is either missing, unaccounted for, or been wasted.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Chief Auditor of Scotland is complaining about it, but it seems he doesn't have the powers to actually do anything.
No.
Right.
So that's what he needs, is to be given the powers.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we do need an audit. UK level audit where people who are competent do say, what is going on here? And you just can't spend this money. It doesn't belong to you. It's the public's money. It's the taxpayers' money. This is the first thing that these people, I don't think these people even understand.
They don't have any sense of responsibility
No.
for it. That's the
No,
problem.
it's just like, we'll waste it. We'll just fritter it away, and whatever it is, we can do that. Right, good Actually, turned out fine, that section, Mary. It's really good. Right, so you managed to get
Probably
it.
didn't need the other
get it done.
20 minutes of stuff I've written.
Things you can do to support the show. You can make a donation to the majority.
Yay.
That is always good. And you can do that through super chats, super thanks on YouTube, or you can go to our website and do that there. You can subscribe to the show on YouTube, or you can do a likes. We like the likes on YouTube particularly because those help the algorithm. And we are rising in the algorithm. We're getting seen more every week. So thanks to you. It's been really great. Please tell your friends about us. Word of mouth is very important. And you can also do all of the above, which makes us happy. Coming up, it is the moment you've all been waiting for. It is the highlight of the week. It is Zoomer of the Week.
Yay.
Right. Okay. So we'll probably run over a minute or two if you can stay with us. That would be great. It's our pleasure to be here tonight with you. And we hope it's your pleasure to be with us. My nomination for Zoomer of the Week is Kezia Dugdale. After a disastrous spell at Scottish Labour leader, she left the party in 2019 over Brexit and a huff, I guess. Dugdale told Holyrood Socialist podcast, that from speaking to people around Fife, a region that was previously packed with safe Labour seats, she does not sense huge swathes of support moving away from the SNP.
I think she's the only one in Scotland.
Yes, perhaps. Although she insisted things were more positive for Labour than they were at the last two general elections, she questioned whether SNP voters had enough reason to change their vote. And here she is. Yeah, that's there. Doesn't feel a surge of support, and also managed to get that right. Of course, her comments were put right on the front of the national SNP House rag there as well.
It's okay, nobody reads it.
Well, nobody reads it, but it still has some influence in keeping them going, I suppose. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. Now, Fife may be an exception, but my question to Kez is there something about the 13% swing to Labour in Bellshill from the SNP that you missed? Or yesterday's polling for observation that showed Labour only 3% behind the SNP? Or the fact the Constitution is an issue waning in voters' minds. Today's poll results, which I mentioned earlier from poll misery, in fact, were lowest level, SNP support slumped to its lowest level in 12 years. This was this one here, if you remember. Well, look at that. It doesn't look too happy there. Okay. It's always fun being picture editor and choosing pictures that match the mood of the article. So some might cynically say that this criticism from the sides comes because Dugdale is married to Jenny Gilruth.
That's what all our commenters are saying, yes.
And we've all seen her angry outbursts in the Scottish Parliament. But I'm not saying anything about that, because surely Kezia can speak her own mind. Change is coming, and for trying to deny that, Kezia gets my nomination. Question though, do you think she'll join the SNP, Mark? Any thoughts on that?
Actually, why? My question would be, why would she? Why would you go to the SNP now when everyone else is leaving?
Yes, a rare case of the rat going back to the sinking ship.
Yeah.
As Catherine says, I'm a failed politician. Get me out of here.
Right. Okay. Anyway, but plenty of less seats to go around. That's the vagaries of the Scottish polling system mean that you can get in on the list. SNP, if SNP went down to 0 constituency seats, they would still have whatever it is, 30 list seats, probably, because of the way it works. So easy number there for a few years.
Yeah, it's possible.
I think the happy days are over, though.
Well, it's still
the glory
join
days.
The gravy train.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. We'll see what Mark comes up with. Hold on. All right, Mark, your Zoomer.
Mine is going to be Lorna Slater. Surprise, surprise.
Why?
Well, I just find it really, really quite awful that she comes from Canada to the UK. She's comes to a country that accepts her, that takes her in, and then immediately she starts to try and divide the country.
Yeah, I think
And now,
so.
and every time she speaks, I just think, you're here as a, coming to the country that's opened its arms for you, that's allowed you to in, and then immediately you join the gravy train and try and, separate the country. And you're supposed to be an environmentalist, but you don't hear any kind of talk about the environment from her. She doesn't. She 4:30. She's got to be finished at 4:30 because she can't work after that. It's just, and she's earning what, 100,000 a year, and now it's the abolish the royal family and lecturing us on what we should do and get rid of our royal family. I just find it incredibly insulting.
Yes. So, well, we mentioned quite a few times that we lived as immigrants in Japan, 18 years, and in the United States
for 8 years.
Yeah. And you don't go in and try and break up another other people's country, other people's home. That's what it is. It's their home.
Yeah.
Have some decency, some decorum about you, and you can get involved in politics, sure, but try and make things better for people. You don't say we're going to break it up, especially after a referendum where the majority of Scots have said, no thanks to that divisive nonsense. It's it's really, I think it's quite shocking. And I also noticed I had another clip actually, Maggie Chapman. There as well, and the Maggie Chapman also in the Greens from Zimbabwe originally as well, and it's like what's going on? It's like why
most countries you lose your citizenship if you start trying to divide it and separate it. You'd be kicked out. So maybe that's about time we brought that in.
No, or at least maybe perhaps if they become a citizen, that perhaps there should be some restriction to say, okay, you can not get involved in politics for a certain period of time or some such thing like that. I mean, some restriction anyway. Or another one is to say ban secession. Okay, there's no secession anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Join the SNP if you like. SNP has to, therefore, concentrate on making Scotland better for everyone in Scotland. I think most people could actually agree with that. If you had parties that were not involved in trying to break us up and just said, okay, how do we deal with what cost of living crisis? How do we deal with the environment? How do we deal with these other things? Then we can have a proper discussion. It's always this breaking up gets in the way. Mhairi, you're going to be up next with yours.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay, so I won with this guy last week, and I think I could probably win with him just about every week. My nomination for Zoomer of the Week is Ross Greer.
Well, of course it is.
Basically, he's been So another Green, of course. Basically, Ross Greer has been accused of having an outrageous slur. If you might remember last week, he was talking about how Ukrainian airstrikes were funny. But this week, I've chosen him for his outrageous slur that people opposed to the Scottish Government's fishing ban have no interest in protecting rural communities and are not interested in securing the future of families who have relied on fishing for employment for generations. I mean, what the hell? Ross Greer telling these people who have been, have had fishing in their families for generations and generations, that he knows what's better for them and that they're not interested in looking after their communities or securing their jobs or whatever. Of course, he was very angry about the widespread backlash to the Greens' plans for what we've heard as the HPMAs, the highly protected marine areas. And last week, the Scottish Government dropped those plans. They were highly protested by all the communities, all the fishermen, everyone like that. So it's just another failed, disastrous green policy, another embarrassment for the SNP.
I mean, just the names, Harvey, Slater, Chapman, Greer. It's just they're just embody the worst ideas that have ever come to any parliament in the UK. And just awful people, just terrible ideas, and they're so self-righteous, so full of themselves, and they were hardly even elected by anyone. It's just really terrible, and the sooner they get kicked out. But the thing is, as I said maybe earlier, this list system allows these people to get in. They didn't even contest. The Greens didn't even contest any what the other seats, what they call constituency seats, right? So,
yeah.
so I mean, maybe there really needs to be a change in this
I think
voting system.
if Humza wasn't so weak, I think he would have, a decent leader would have ended that agreement as soon as they become first minister, because it's hurting him. It's hurting the SNP. I don't understand why he doesn't see this. It is really hurting the SNP because
they're scared of other stuff. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And maybe they know what's going on in the finances. Maybe they know other stuff that's going on. Who knows? I don't know.
But the chief executive of the Scottish Fishermen's Federation accused Greer of astounding ignorance.
That's understating.
The rural affairs person said he's clearly blind to the overwhelming opposition to his party's plan.
Well, they don't care about working people. They don't care about the fishermen. They don't care about the people in the drinks industry. They don't care about the landlords. They hate these people, actually. Yeah. That's what it comes down to.
They hate anyone, earning a decent living.
These people aren't even earning a decent living. They just think that they are so much better than the rest of them. That's what it comes down to. We know so much better than you. You've worked in the drinks industry for all your life, all you guys. Nah, we know better. You've worked as fishermen all your life. No, you know better, and so on. That's your renters, your landlords. Oh, you don't know anything. That's where it goes, right? Anyway, Mark, you can decide who's it going to be,
and feel free to pick your own. Because
it could be any three of them. It could really be any three of them, but. I'm going to go with Lorna Slater.
Right.
Yeah. You can't lose. You can't lose with Lorna as Zimmer of the Week, can you?
No.
No one's ever going to say that it shouldn't be her. Okay, so where are we?
You got to put it in there, Mary.
Yes, there we go.
Right.
Zimmer of the Week winner is Lorna Slater.
Yes,
thanks,
good.
Mark. That's a good one.
That's very good. Okay, well, I'd like to thank you for being on the show with us a little bit longer tonight than normal. I'm supposed to have a thought of the week, but I didn't actually write something down. Let's make extemporize. Maybe talk about that Winston Churchill. Democracy is the worst system we have, but it's better than all these alternatives. Do we really want to have these people in Parliament? Now, the main thing that we can do to stop them is actually get organised and vote against them. Tell your friends, whatever it is, to vote them out, tactical voting, whatever you can do to do that. So, with that said, I'd like to thank you for being with us on the show tonight. Thank you all for your messages of support throughout the show. Thanks, Paul. And some new viewers we saw there, maybe Mark, you'll be bringing them in, which is great. Great.
We knew Mark would be a big draw.
Right, yes. Thank you for that. When's your next Twitter space?
Tomorrow night.
Okay, so please do tune into that. So I'd like to say... thank you to Mark. Thank you to Mary.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to you all for watching, and we will see you again here next week, same time, 7 p.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Right.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
With us.